everyone, and welcome back to the Shiny Show. I'm wearing my other crochet half bandana. This is the Sharpie one that I showed off in my last video. This was the one I was wearing in my last video. It's mushrooms. Again, I'll link them down below in the description. These two came as a pair, but there are other style options that you can choose if these two aren't your favorite. They're really cute. I really like them, and they're really comfortable for me. This has been a video that I've been wanting to make for a little while now because I have been in a reading funk myself. A weird one because I'm still reading. I can still read just very slowly I'm reading at a slower pace than my normal reading pace, which is totally fine. It's just, this is another form of a reading funk for me. And I wanted to do a video like this because, you know, the reading funks happen, reading slumps happen, and, you know, having ways to deal with reading funks. I'm probably not the only one who needs tips and tricks for how to deal with one. If you have any tips or tricks, leave them down below in the comments. I could for sure use more. This list is not the end all be all of dealing with a reading funk, getting out of one, so please feel free to leave more tips and tricks down below in the comments. These are 10 tips and tricks that I personally try to use when I'm dealing with a reading slump, a reading funk, whatever you want to call it. Again, I do try to use these tips and tricks, but I don't always. Sometimes you just got to muddle through a reading funk, which I guess is a tip in and of itself. So I guess we're doing 11 tips and tricks. I'm just going to stick with the 10 because sometimes you do just have to wade through a reading slump and there isn't really anything you can do about it until you are ready to read again. Let's get into my list. The first tip is to try to carry a book with you at all times. An ebook or an audiobook through an app on your phone or through a Kindle tends to be the easiest way to do this. Ebooks and audiobooks tend to be the easiest way to carry a book with you at all times. If you want to carry a physical book with you at all times, that is also perfectly okay. And you can buy book sleeves on like Amazon or Etsy to keep your book protected. But carrying a book with you at all times can give you that sense of, I have something to return to. I have something to keep holding on to in a sense. I have a world that I can dive into when I'm ready to get back into reading. The second tip is to not force it. Don't force reading. Kind of like what I was saying earlier with just muddling through, wading through a reading slump. You don't want to force reading, of course, unless you're in school and have to read. You shouldn't be forcing yourself to read because that could, in the long run, make the reading slump worse and make you not want to read even more or for a longer period of time. Tip number 3 is to return to your favorites. If you do feel like you can do a little bit of reading, return to your favorites, whether it's your favorite book, a scene in your favorite book, or your favorite author. Specifically turning to your favorite scenes that can be easier done in the ebooks or the audiobooks. Rereading some of your favorite scenes can also help remind you like, oh, this is why I love reading, or this is why I love reading this specific genre because of scenes like this, or because of books like this. The fourth tip is to look for bookish recs on bookish social media within your preferred genre. Because I know for me, roughly 50% of the time when I'm in a reading slump and I think I want to try to get back into reading, I'm feeling like maybe I can try. I want to go to my favorite genre or genres. Mine is usually historical fiction. Sometimes when you're in a reading slump, it can kind of be hard to look up new releases within your preferred genre on your own. Going to bookish social media and looking that up can help you so that you don't necessarily have to do it all on your own, and you can get reviews and see why people liked it and see people's edits of those kinds of books as well. The fifth tip or trick is to reorganize your bookshelves, your physical bookshelves. It doesn't have to be a drastic reorganization unless that's just how you want to do it, or that's the only way you really like doing it is by doing a drastic reorganization. It doesn't have to be that. It can just be like reorganizing one bookshelf or a couple of shelves within a singular bookshelf. Sometimes seeing your books in a different way, in a different light, or at the very least seeing some of your books in different spots can help with figuring out what you might want to read next, and then you can kind of go from there basically. Trick number 6 is to go to your local library or bookstore or go to an app like Libby and just browse. I know that is something that we all have trouble doing, like going to a library or a bookstore and just browsing. Like, we always have to pick something up and take it home with us. But just browse, see what they have on tables, see what they have on their shelves, and maybe even talk to people who work there and see if they would have any good recommendations. But at the very least, visit your local library or bookstore without necessarily the expectation you'll buy something. Just go and visit and walk around and just browse. The 7th tip is to try to find your favorite authors on social media. Try to find them on the social media that you most often use, whether it's Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, which is now X, but try to find your favorite authors on social media if they have one, because then you can kind of keep up to date with them, see if they're working on anything new, engage with them, because then they might have recommendations of books they like that you may also enjoy. Again, it's all about finding good recommendations, finding good books, but at the same time, not necessarily forcing yourself to read until you're ready to read. The 8th tip, the 8th trick, is to try to divert from your normal genres, from your favorite genres. This is despite what I said in the 4th tip, which was to look for recommendations within your preferred genres, but maybe try 1 or 2 books in something that's completely, totally left field from your preferred genre, because you may find something that you like, you may not, but at least you tried something, you know, and you tried something different. In a way, you gave yourself a break from what you normally read. The 9th tip, the 9th trick, this kind of applies to more so if you typically tend to stick to 1 to 2 formats. Try out a new type of format. Of course, this isn't possible for everyone, but if possible, as I've said, try to do another format of book. Again, this also kind of applies to if you typically do 2 formats, try that 3rd one out a little bit more. Again, if you can and if you have access to that. Now, the last and final tip, trick number 10, is to try to pick up a new hobby. Try to pick up crocheting, or I said crocheting because of my bandana, or baking, or cooking. If you don't already do something, try to pick up a new hobby and just focus on that a little bit without the pressure of reading. And then after a little while, once you've gotten the hang of that hobby, try to see if you're up for returning to reading. I hope you all appreciated this video. I know that I would have, which is why I did something like this. There are multiple other videos kind of like this out there, so I hope this kind of adds to that. Thank you all for watching, and stay tuned for my next video.